Russell Brand, Andrew Tate, men that might be gone. You might not see them anymore. Well, according to London, to UK, if they have their way, the Times, talking about Rumble being forced offline because of free speech. Heaven forbid, free speech. Free. Yes, you're hearing that right. Free speech. Free. You're free to say what you want. Free. But we're going to take you off if we don't like what you're saying. And that's where we find ourselves in America, not just the UK, not just around the world, but in America, where we have documents, all but forgotten, that preserve that right, that self-evident right to life, liberty, and pursuit of property. The First Amendment, the Bill of Rights, Second Amendment, Third Amendment, Fourth Amendment. These rights to protect yourself, Second Amendment, to have free speech, freedom of press, protest, First Amendment, from unreasonable search and seizure, privacy, Fourth Amendment. Many of these things we just take for granted here in America, unfortunately. We take for granted in the West in general. We see what's going on in Canada just had completely off the reservation, right? Shutting down their own citizens, freezing their bank accounts, won't allow them to protest over the last 2 years, as we've seen with the Canadian truckers. We're seeing it with the Dutch farmers. We're seeing it in Australia. We're seeing it all around the earth. And you might be asking, how is this possible? Well, many of these things are laid out. All of it is laid out in this book, short book, about 200 pages, 250 pages, and it outlines many of the things that are going on and what's happening here, and tells us exactly what it is that the ruling class. Because think about this, people have to ask themselves, when did there's certain things that happen. Like Malcolm Gladwell writes a book called Outliers, and it's about just circumstantial things happening in life, right? If you believe in God, then maybe it's fate, or it's His designed plan, or people born at certain times for certain reasons. I believe that we are born at this time for a certain reason, to uphold faith. The people that are hearing this message, you're only going to receive it if you believe in freedom, in liberty, in your own conscience, and being able to think and do what you wish to do, that you are from a divine creator, or from nature, and you are here either way. But you are not predestined to be run and live in a pod and be governed by some man or woman on high, another human being. That is why you are here. And the Founding Fathers in America knew that. They were the elites, and they left because they could see that things were spiraling out of control, and they came here to preserve those rights. Those documents, the Bill of Rights, the Constitution, the Declaration, all these documents were here to preserve the rights. They didn't give you the rights. They preserved the rights that were self-evident, given to you by God, given to you by nature's God. Period. And we are now completely backwards. Many of the people espousing these things, media, academia, all brainwashed by the people at the top. Over the last couple hundred years, coming full circle now, the last 400 years, we've had this invention really of central banking and the ability, the communication, the means to communicate and travel around the world. We didn't have that before. So now we have this one world government apparatus that people espouse as some conspiracy. But it's not a conspiracy when we have all their books, when we have all the writings, Tragedy and Hope, we have the Communist Manifesto, we have all of the papers, we have the documents, we have videos now, for crying out loud. You feel like Mugatu from Zoolander, like you're taking crazy pills. But all these things, as Winston Churchill himself said, who was part of the apparatus, said, the further we look into the past, the further we can see into the future. And the further you look into the past and see what's actually happening. This book was published 30 years ago, and it was compiled over the 30 years prior to that. So you're talking in the 50s, 60s, published in around 1990, and all these things coming true. And in order to understand what's happening, you have to understand that past, and you have to understand the people that, because of the means of travel, because of the British East India Company, because of the Dutch East India Company, being able to travel around, ransack countries, and having the means before anyone else in the world to have real massive armies that could travel and could actually conquer things, and the means and production to do it, and then go and ransack African countries or countries in the East, or try to do it here in the West, and take the resources for themselves. The Rothschilds, many of these families that, the Warburgs, that are the controlling benefactors of the banking system, the central banks. They created these conglomerates, these companies, and got into public-private partnerships decades and centuries ago to try to if currency is not your game anymore, just that wealth, what do you go to ultimately? You're going to go to control and power over human beings. That is the game. So when you can have your 20th Lamborghini, would you rather have that, or would you rather have control over the human race, or control over the earth and its resources? Well, you would try to play God, and that's precisely what these people have been doing. These families over the last 200, 300, 400 years, and we're seeing it play out in spades right now. And this is why they are against people speaking out like the Russell Brands, like the Andrew Tates. They're against things like Bitcoin, that they talk about one world currency in here, but they were hoping it was going to be a one world fiat currency, a government currency that they could print and they could steal your time and energy at will, and you own none of it. Now they're hoping a CBDC is that world. They're hoping the central bank digital currency is that game, where they talk about it right in here, which I need to find some of these passages to talk to you, or to tell you, the abolition of privately owned firearms, and on and on and on, page after page of what they're going to do and how they're going to control everyone. CBDCs, such persons will find when they go to make purchases that their card, remember this is written in the 70s and 80s, and then published in 1990, such persons, or 92 maybe, such persons will find that when they go to make purchases that their card is blacklisted. There should be no cash, first, there should be no cash or coinage in the hands of non-elite. All transactions shall be carried out by means of a debit card, which shall bear the identification number of the holder, and you will be branded with an identification number. That's what they're saying, and your card shall match that. Any person who in any way infringes the rules, regulations of the Committee of 300 shall have his or her use of the card suspended, depending on the size of the crime. Such persons will find when they go to make purchases that their card will be blacklisted, and they will not be able to obtain services of any kind. Attempts to trade old coins, that is to say silver coins of previous and now defunct nations, shall be treated as a capital crime subjected to the death penalty. All such coinage shall be required to be surrendered within a given time, along with guns, rifles, explosives, automobiles, and this goes on and on and on. Talking about euthanasia, talking about the destruction of the housing and auto industry, essential employees and non-essential employees, talking about UFOs, talking about how they can distract people and how they will distract people, depopulating the earth, mind-controlled drugs and putting things into the food. Such mind-controlled drugs shall be given in food and or water supplies without the knowledge and or consent of the people, and on and on. I mean, this is just page after page after page. You see all my highlights in here of what's going on. So this is going to continue to happen. If good people don't stand, and they stay silent, evil will persist. That is what we are in. We are in a time that try men's souls, as Thomas Paine said. Will we stand for good, or will we let evil fester and infect the entire earth? And will we live in our own prison? That's the question. Russell Brand, Andrew Tate, this is just one little sliver of the massive apparatus that we can't even see below the surface. It's really the iceberg. We can only see a little select bit of it, and most of it's under the surface. But follow the money. As Nolan Bowerly says, don't follow the science, follow the money. Following the money is going to get you as close as you possibly can to truth. And at the end of the day, that's why I believe in Bitcoin. The only way, as Henry Ford said 100 years ago, to demonetize wars, to make wars obsolete, to bring people together, to align incentives, is a sound, finite energy money. That is it. And Satoshi discovered that. Decades, people are trying to figure this out. Stateless money. Milton Friedman, I believe, was the one saying we need a sly roundabout way, or Frederick Hayek, I can't remember, saying we need a sly roundabout way around the governments and around their monetary system. We have that now in Bitcoin. If we want change, if we want to start healing the world and ridding ourselves of the monsters that are controlling us with propaganda, with endless social media campaigns and slogans and end zones and politics infesting every part of our life, and our kids going to school in bubbles with masks on and can't even say certain words. If we want to end that, if we want a world where people are healed and not at each other's throats, then we need a sound, finite energy money. Period. There is no other way short of praying, getting on your hands and knees every day, all day, and that's all we do. But we still need to do something. We will let God do what God does, and we'll pray that He is with us and helps us, but we also must do our part. And our part is we have been gifted something that no humans have ever been gifted. Sound, finite, digital scarcity. Never in human history have we had this opportunity, have we had this chance. and we are going to make the most of it. So do all that you can. Vote out of the system. Again, you can vote at the ballot box, but you can vote with your mouth, vote with your feet, you can vote with your wallet. Buying Bitcoin and self-custodying and taking off the exchanges, putting it in your cold storage is the peaceful revolution. That is a vote for freedom and for liberty for all 8 billion people and every person going into the future. Please share this out. The algorithm hates truth. Please do our part to buy Bitcoin, self-custody it in cold storage, and to defund the system that is controlling all of us, outlined here and in many more books. This is not some conspiracy. Conspiracy theory, the term was used by the New York Times, I believe, after the Kennedy assassination, which, believe it or not, talks about a fair amount in this book. So let's put the puzzle pieces together. Bank Secrecy Act in '64, they started really rationing things down at that time to deflect and distract the populace and control the money. I appreciate you coming here. Please, Bitcoin into cold storage, maybe get a little gold and silver, some food, energy, water, firearms, ammo, security. We need to pick up our cross and lay down our lives. We are at that time. This is the time to do it, when things are still somewhat quiet, when there's not anarchy. I shouldn't say anarchy, when there's not chaos. Anarchy most likely would not be chaos. Anarchy would be much better than what we have now. No government, people to be able to do what they wish, and just treat each other well, instead of governments polarizing us and dividing us and beating us over the head with senseless monetary policies. So please share it out. Please prepare yourself. Build community with people around you, the ranchers, sheriffs, your farmers, and believe people, good or bad. What they say, believe them. Take them at their word. And build community. The number one thing we can do to build that. Share it out. The algorithm clearly, at this point, clearly hates truth. So please share us out to overwhelm the system. Appreciate you coming to our TED Talk here. Question everything with boldness, even the existence of God himself. Trust but verify. It's not financial advice, it's freedom advice. And I'll see you on the next one.